Hi there guys, Sam here. Welcome back to another video. You join me once again in the Golf R, and this time I wanted to talk about buying a Mk8 Golf GTI over a Mk8 Golf R. So yeah, I'll get straight into the video really. So yes, welcome back to another video. If you hadn't checked out yesterday's video, which was on the reverse essentially, which was buying a Mk8 Golf R over a Mk8 GTI, please click up on the link below to check that video out. But today's video I wanted to talk about obviously the Mk8 Golf GTI, and this is all off the back of a community post I put up at the start of the week, which yeah, it got great feedback. I think I got around sort of 20 comments to go through, which is great. And I went through all the positives from the sort of like the Mk8 Golf R side in yesterday's video, and on today's one it's all the ones that are about the positive of the Mk8 GTI. And I'll start off with my kind of thoughts, and then I'll go into the comments from you guys, because you know this is kind of a community channel. I love to get feedback from people who know what they're talking about, and yeah, gets everyone involved. So yeah, I really appreciate that. And yeah, let's get straight into this one. So yes, the Mk8 Golf GTI, we know a lot more about it now in comparison to the Mk8 Golf R. It's soon to be released. We're likely to kind of see it more this year. We've seen sort of road tests of it, so information about it is more readily out there. Whereas the Golf R, there's still a few question marks, potentially a little bit about power, and yeah, a bit around price as well. But we're nearly there. We're nearly building a full picture, and once we get that full picture, I'll obviously share it on this channel as I normally do. So going through a list of the positives of the Mk8 Golf GTI over the R, the one thing that would kind of sway people is that heritage. People have long lives. They don't forget things. Built back in sort of the mid 70s, the GTI was kind of that definitive hot hatch, and people talk about heritage. They love things that they know, and it's also kind of like a very good people's car. It's all that you would need really. It's generally better priced than the Golf R. I think in the Mark 7 it was quite close, but I feel with the fact that they've sort of said the power isn't going to change, it's 245 PS, 245 brake, which was the same as the previous GTI's performance pack version. Not much has changed in that regards. Still potentially going to have a manual gearbox, which is obviously brings the price down as well. And that really helps your ordinary person to get into the car and to enjoy such a fabulous car. And fundamentally, the whole chassis and the frame of the car isn't actually changed. They change obviously suspension and bits like that, but the fundamentals of the car is still there. Things people don't really consider too much is the weight. Four-wheel drive system, as I know in my Golf R, does add a fair few kilos to the car, and yeah, that can dent a little bit of the fun. It makes the car slightly less agile to a degree, and the GTI will kind of have that in its pocket over the R. Also, the price savings, in this day and age, we're still sort of, I don't know what sort of stage we're through, sort of COVID and stuff, but people don't have as big a disposable income as they probably once did. And certainly for the mass kind of production that VW would want to do on these kind of cars, the Golf GTI and the Golf R for that matter, so you'd probably lean towards the GTI if you're kind of a normal person, if that makes sense. 245 brake horsepower is a lot. I think people get carried away with the 1,000 brake horsepowers of supercars, and even potentially this hot hatch at 300 brake horsepower. It's more than you need, as I know on the road, and that is fine. You can really get a lot out of it, and it actually kind of makes you think a little bit more, because you want to carry speed more through corners, because you don't necessarily have the grunt to get through it. So as a fun hot hatch prospect, it's really got it. But as we know from a Golf in general and the Mk8 Golf, infotainment, everything is going to be like for like in both cars. And as a refined daily, the GTI is probably just going to nick it, because it's going to have slightly more, better compromised suspension for sort of daily use. Not necessarily as hardcore, which most people kind of prefer. The GTI kind of has its own sort of right, and it's probably the only car in this kind of segment, let alone comparing it to the R, that can kind of get away with not really doing huge power gains and still getting a lot of sales. I've said before in yesterday's video, a well-driven Mk8 Fiesta ST is probably going to keep up with it relatively easily. And that's not necessarily what you'd want if you're going to a hatchback in this segment that costs a fair bit more as well. But if you look at it on kind of the other side of things, you know, is that kind of enough for you? You know, I'll probably do later videos on this, but I'm, you know, around where I live, a lot of fun drives and stuff like that. We're having like restricted speed limits and stuff like that, which isn't great. You know, 60 miles an hour or basically 100 kilometers an hour, basically all as fast as you can go in the UK. And that looking like it's getting reduced more and more, which is a shame. And it kind of makes you think, well, what's the point of having that amount of power? So the GTI kind of has that going for it. Some people do prefer the front wheel drive sort of scenario of a car. I had a Fiesta ST, there's one in front of me right now, the Mark 7. And it does mean that you have a little bit more to do at the wheel. You've got to control the throttle a little bit more. Whereas in this, I'll be honest, 99% of the time, even in the wet, you can just plant your foot on the throttle, which some people prefer. But it does take some of the excitement out of it. Sometimes scrabbling a little bit of the wheel, even with a well sorted out front wheel drive car, can be a little bit of fun and just adds to the car. Yeah, you get a little bit more to do, which is always good. And I think that's why some enthusiasts prefer a manual gearbox. It's something else to do with the car, and you're paying a lot for the car, so you want it to do lots of different things, and certainly to keep you occupied. You know, I'm just like you, particularly around this time. You can get bored quite easily, and in the car world, would I really want to be sitting in here in like an automatic? You know, I don't know. I don't think so personally, particularly as I'm not driving the car as much. When I do drive it, I want to have that engagement and fun, and a GTI can do that, if not more than a Mark 8 Golf R to a degree. So yeah, there's, once again, as I said before in yesterday's video, I could kind of go on and on. Love the Mark 8 GTI. So many people love it as well. But I want to go through the comments that you lot have put through, and yeah, share it on the screen. You'll probably see me go a little bit smaller up top, and yeah, we'll then kind of have a conclusion over this all. So yes, one of the first comments I have here says, now that I have a Golf R and have had a Mark 7 GTI, I'd easily adapt a GTI as my next car for two reasons. First reason is the GTA makes more sense economically, and second reason is the Golf R is fast, but 95% of the time I never use that full power in everyday driving. It's just overkill, and the GTI Performance Pack is plenty more fun and plenty more power, and if you want a manual, it's got that too. So even though I love my 7.5R DSG, I'd quite happily have a Mark 8 GTI Performance Pack, or GTI, whatever it is, manual in grey or black. I didn't actually mention that. Economy, because it's lighter, less power, you're going to get more economy out of it. It's the same engine at the end of the day. But yeah, very good points there. The next one, so GTI all day. It's fast, economical, costs a bit cheaper, has more aggressive lines opposed to the R. One of the best daily runners, unless you live in Germany and the commute is on the Autobahn every day. I don't see the need for the R. Plus GTI heritage, what more? Yeah, really, really good points. And that's one thing I should probably add to as well. You do get a little bit more style with the GTI, a little bit more quirkiness as well, if that's your thing. And that's, again, another thing over the Mark 8R, which can be a little bit more subtle. Again, kind of why I like this one, to be honest with you. All personal preference. But yeah, good points there. The next one is sort of two comments, reply to a comment. So GTI, because it's fast enough, cheaper to buy and run as well. Running costs is quite important. And then someone replied and said, exactly, I love the heritage with the GTI, and for me, they're more fun to drive. Fair points there. Next one, a GTI, but the Club Sport or whatever the special version is in the Mark 8. Better residuals and GTI image, not R, which is my opinion is substantially better. Now that is a good point, and this is why GTI has got such a good name to it. Every single sort of like special edition of the Mark 7 GTI did particularly well. The 40th anniversary edition, I still love today. I think the looks of that car is amazing, even if it didn't up the power massively. You know, you get wingback seats. How cool is that? I love that. And the TCR, and obviously the Club Sport S with its back seats ripped out. And they also do retain their value, particularly in the UK. There's not really a TCR, a 40th anniversary edition, or a Club Sport S, which costs less than a decent spec Golf R. Confusingly, I know, but that's just the way it is. You know, heritage talks big time. So that's really, really good points there. Next one is driving is about fun. GTI all day. Who wants a car like a robot? Golf R. Again, really good points. I guess thinking of a car like a robot is probably thinking more about the four-wheel drive, because that's the main difference between the R and the GTI. And yes, you know, it does. You know, it ultimately can, you know, I've driven this car for the last nearly 30,000 miles over the last 3 and a bit years. And yeah, at times you're just kind of like, how is it doing that? How is it getting that round that corner so fast? How is it able to get up to speed so fast? Because you're not really doing that much. Okay, I'm involved a little bit more with the manual, but yeah, the four-wheel drive system just takes care of it completely. You can turn traction control off, it will still just completely take care of everything for you. And in a world that is going very robotic, yes, really good point there to mention that. So yes, those are the points there as the sun starts beaming out at me, which is great. Beautiful Sunday morning now in the UK, so I really want to take advantage of it. Yes, really good points there. I think it's a really good topic to kind of discuss. And everyone has their own personal preference, but these two cars are so highly kind of talked about, particularly on my channel as well. And to be honest with you, I love them both. I don't really necessarily think there is a winner. It's all personal preference. But I do think that price gap is going to be the main thing. That's what I always talk about, you know. Okay, I try to look after my money as best as I can. And as people quite rightly mentioned, the residuals of GTIs are really high. Really good. And if the car is cheaper to buy in the first place, it's actually not a bad thing to go to. I know getting new cars is quite difficult now and not everyone can, but I'm not just talking to a new buyer, I'm talking to a used buyer as well. In 2 years' time, if you get a decent deal on a car, it could work out quite well. You know, we don't all have unlimited funds. So yeah, really good points. I think the heritage of the GTI is just off the scale. I think they've built that car so well throughout the years, throughout the decades, and people love it for it. And it's hard for the GTI, the R, the sort of the new void, to come in and really displace it completely. But I do feel it's getting there. That's why I do a lot of Mk8 Golf R content, because I think it's got a lot to kind of shout about. And I think it was a great discussion to kind of talk about. And thanks again so much for getting involved in the community on that post. I'll try and do more in the future as well, if you lot are interested in that too. But thanks so much for watching. Please give this video a like, share and subscribe. I think that's the big thing to help grow quite a small YouTube channel. Really do appreciate the 1,300 subscribers that I've got and built up over the last couple of years. Yeah, you know, if you do subscribe to the channel, you're getting involved in the community. You know, I'll do videos like this. Check out my previous content basically and see if you like it. And if you do, yeah, subscribe and you'll get to see plenty more. But you know, I'm going to go out and enjoy the rest of my fantastic, beautiful Sunday. You know, it's not going to be lasting too much longer here in the UK. Now we're in sort of getting into September. But yes, have a fantastic rest of the day wherever you are. Stay safe. And I will see you again next time. Thanks for watching. Cheers, guys.